The United Methodist hymnal is full of profound music and praise to God. But it's the people and the stories behind these songs that give life to the words we sing each Sunday and connect them to our own experience. These songs were written by all sorts of people. Famous theologians like Martin Luther, great musicians like Johann Sebastian Bach, and Charles Wesley, one of the founders of Methodism. The hymns they wrote deal with theological truths and their own experiences with God. Other songs in our hymnal, like Horatio Spafford's "It Is Well With My Soul," are incredibly personal. Spafford penned these words as he traveled to join his wife after their 4 daughters were killed in a shipwreck. This hymn about God's support and comfort in the midst of tragedy not only helped Spafford deal with his own loss, but it has helped countless people in the past 2 centuries express both their grief and their trust in God. The most famous hymn in history is the product of a similarly profound story. John Newton's Amazing Grace tells of the composer's own journey from sin to God's love and redemption. John was born to a Christian mother who taught him the Bible at an early age. His mother died when he was 7, and his father, a sea captain, took him into his care. John began to live a life on the seas, and eventually was drafted into service with the British Navy. However, John had a rebellious spirit and got into a lot of trouble as a teen. He clashed with the strict discipline of the Navy and soon found himself in prison. Eventually, he was able to convince his superiors to let him leave the Navy, and he found work on a slave ship. On one of the long voyages, John's ship sailed into a terrible storm, and he feared for his life. He remembered the lessons he'd been taught by his mother and called to God while the sea raged. However, even after his conversion, he continued serving on slave ships. He rationalized it by saying he wanted to help restrain the worst elements of the slave trade. After a few years, John retired from the sea. He began to take his faith more seriously. He hosted Bible studies at his home and was heavily influenced by the Wesley brothers and another preacher named George Whitefield. As he learned more about his faith, he became increasingly disgusted by the practice of slavery in which he had played a role. He became an Anglican priest and began working with English politician William Wilberforce to end the slave trade. During his time as a priest, he wrote the powerful words of Amazing Grace. The song dives into John's disgust with his past life and his awe at God's powerful work to redeem him. When you hear the story of John Newton, the words, "I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see," take on a whole new meaning. This is the power of worshiping together. Through the songs in our hymnal, we connect with our friends in the next pew, as well as worshipers in countries around the world and throughout history. The stories behind these songs are the stories we all share, our fears and our failings, our comforts and joys in being God's children. Together, we make a beautiful noise.